Well guys, the cable cam is back in action here in our temporary worship center, our student center. We've had the Wiral Lite cable cam set up for years in our main worship center, but I thought, why not throw it up in here as just that cherry on top for our live stream setup. I'll walk you through how we're setting this up and adding some more dynamic wide shots that add some motion and energy to our live stream, and if it's something you might consider for your church. So let me walk you through the ins and outs of setting up the Wiral Lite cable cam for your live stream. Well, if you're new around here, my name is Ryland. I am the Worship and Media Arts Pastor here at Central. We're undergoing a big construction project, doing a new worship center, but in the meantime, we're here in our student space called the Venue, and I'm always on the hunt for cheap technology that will help us do some cool stuff, especially when it comes to our church's live streams. And I actually have a full course that you can look into, link in the description, 18 modules to help take your live stream to the next level. But one of the ways that we've done that, which is totally unnecessary, don't think that you have to have this, but when you've already kind of got all the pieces of the puzzle in place, one thing you might consider is something like this, a budget-friendly cable cam. I'll also tell you all the reasons you should not consider this, but it's a fun little toy that you can incorporate. So you've probably seen some of these mega churches that have spider cams that are NFL-style cable cams going throughout, or maybe a dactyl cam from Rhythm, and you've kind of had your eye on one of those, but then you realize they're like $20,000. Well, I think you can pick these up still. This is a Wiral Lite, and it is just a single line cable cam that hooks on and then sits on and goes back and forth on a cable that you install wherever you want. I'll go through some safety procedures on that later, and then it is controlled with this remote, or with the phone app, and it just loops back and forth and creates a pretty dynamic shot for your live stream. But there's quite a few pieces when you want to put this all together, so let me just break it down for you. The first thing to consider is the cable cam. So you've got the Wiral Lite and the battery, which is not a standard RC style battery. So they are like only Wiral Lite batteries with a certain end and their charger. So those are proprietary. And then you've got the controller from Wiral Lite, which has been good. It's got a decent range. And then the next piece of the puzzle is what you're going to attach to the Wiral Lite. For us, we actually went with still the old school Moza Air gimbal. You can get these used for a couple $100, but I probably wouldn't buy one nowadays. I'd probably go with the DJI RS2 or RS4, something like that. The main reason we like this gimbal is because it has a Wi-Fi 2.4 gigahertz remote control where we can control pan, tilt, and those kinds of things, not zoom, with this remote. So our operators can sit back in the back and actually move the camera back and forth with this remote. And that's super important for the way that we have it set up in this room. As you saw in those shots at the beginning, we have this mounted on a wall that is going along the side of the room. And so we've got to be able to pan and tilt this camera, or else it's only going to be good for a very narrow span of time. And a gimbal of some sort is going to be very important on the Wiral. Yes, it's very smooth, but you can't just put a camera on it, even a GoPro. An Osmo Pocket you might be able to get away with, but you can't wirelessly get that to your live stream. If you're not live streaming, you could go with an Osmo Pocket, but wireless video is going to be the next piece of the puzzle. Currently, we've been using the new Axoon CineView Master 4K units. It's a good budget-friendly unit that has less than 20 milliseconds of delay. It can do 2.4, 5, and 6 gigahertz output, HDMI and SDI ins and outs. Well, yeah, ins and outs, which is nice. And so it's kind of bulky on this little gimbal is the only thing. The other Axoon unit we used to use was a little smaller, but it had more latency. I like the Teradek Ace 500s or even the Teradek Sparks if you are around that same budget range, but this is a cool unit as well. And we just got that attached to the gimbal. So this will all flip upside down and go onto the Wiral as you've seen it in the other shots going back and forth on the line. So it goes inverted. Right now I just got it on this tripod to show you. And then obviously you have to pick a camera to go on your gimbal. For us, it was important to choose a camera in here that had pretty good autofocus, because we're going this way throughout the room. We needed it to be able to automatically grab focus. So we got an 18mm 1.8 running about 2.2 from an S5 II from Panasonic on this gimbal going HDMI out into the Axoon. That's been really good. So running that with real-time LUT has helped with some of the dynamic range in this room of really brights and really darks. And we've been really happy with the image. And this has been a good setup for in here. It's one of those things that, like, you don't need this all, right? But we already had built out this room in the last couple of months after we moved in to have all of our main shots, all of our things that we really needed for the live stream. And so we were able to find a spot in here to utilize equipment that we already had and add some more dynamics. One thing that was a struggle in this room that you may have the same struggle with is we're really tight in here, and there's not much space in the back of the room to get any sweeping wide shots or anything like that. And so this idea was like, okay, we could mount our cable cam and be able to get a real big establishing wide sweeping shot of the room without having to, you know, navigate behind people or around people standing in the way. And so that's been really cool. So let me talk to you about the mounting of this unit and what to consider. So the Wiral does come with a really good rope. I think it's 100 feet, or I don't know, it's more distance than we ever have needed. And it's on a quick reel. We have attached that between two brackets that we have mounted to the studs in our wall. And that is just pulling between those two brackets and ratchet strapped actually to bring a little more tension to that rope. We put it up just above our black line in our ceiling, so it's completely hidden when the unit is not on there. And then each Sunday we just get on a ladder on the stage and mount this up, and then we only use this for one service. So battery wise, everything just has to be good for one service. Now the gimbal is going to last for like 8 hours. The wireless stuff is going to last for 8 hours. It's just the camera battery that would only be lasting about 2 hours. And so that's really the only detrimental drawback. Even the Wiral battery will last many, many hours. And so if you had a bigger gimbal, that's going to kind of strain the motors of this. Like if you try to throw a V-mount battery on the side of here and power your camera forever, this is only rated for, I think, like 2.5 kilograms. Don't ask me what that is in pounds, but we're close to the limit here. I think people are doing more than what that is rated at, but I just don't want to push it too hard. One thing to consider when you're mounting this is that, in my opinion, I would not fly this over people because this does not have a secondary safety wire. There are ways you can get around that and do that, but we are not doing that, and it's not really built that way to do that. So we have it just over on the side of our room where people are not standing during the service. Now listen, we've had this flying in our different spaces for, I want to say, almost 5 years now, and it's never fallen, never even hinted at falling. I don't think if it was going to fall, it would ever be anything with the Wiral, because it's got this safety clip and then it's mounting on these two wheels. It would probably be something with like the gimbal attachment or the camera attachment or something like that. So don't fly this over your congregation if you're choosing to do something like this, would be my recommendation. But once you've got the unit up on the line, you are going to utilize the remote to set your endpoints and then just set your speed and click play. And then the gimbal and Wiral are just going to go back and forth on a loop. I wish that it kind of ramped down a little smoother at the ends. You have to be careful not to have this live on the screen whenever it's hitting that endpoint, because it does kind of jolt a little bit there at each endpoint, but it's really smooth. And it adds a really dynamic shot. We do mount the remote here in the middle of the area. That way it is always halfway between the run, and it's most likely to maintain connection no matter where it's at on its travel. So here's a couple of considerations. This unit is a pain in the butt. Like, it's so many batteries. You have to make sure the Wiral battery is charged. You have to make sure that this is charged. You have to make sure the AAA's and this are charged. You've got batteries for your wireless. You've got 3 batteries for your gimbal. You've got a battery for your camera. So there's a lot of batteries to have to mess with and worry about. And then you've got to set it up and take it down, make sure the gimbal's balanced, set your endpoints. This is not a thing you can just leave set up all the time and it's like just ready to go. So it's definitely an annoying thing to have to set up, but it's a pretty cool shot. And what we've been doing is we have an operator with a secondary monitor that the receiver of our wireless unit, it goes out to that with the HDMI, and it goes out with SDI to our ATEM, so that he has a preview of just the cable cam, and then he has his remote. So during worship, he's on headset and can know when it's time for him to go and pan and all those kinds of things. And then during sermon, we actually just pause the unit in the back of the room. That way it's not looping back and forth during sermon. We've never had anybody complain. There's no really noise to this unit. It's very silent. And honestly, it's been a really reliable unit for a Kickstarter campaign that came, and it's really plasticky and that kind of thing. But yeah, the Wiral Lite, I'll try to find links to it. So if you're interested, you can pick one up and try it if your space is a good fit for something like this. If you have any questions about implementing a cable cam from Wiral Lite, let me know in the questions in the comments below. Remember, I've got a full course about live streaming and how to level up your live stream with 18 different modules that is on sale for $124 that you can pick up today, that I will link in the description as well. So remember, guys, at the end of the day, this is all just technology and tools to help us make much of Jesus, right? To point people to Him. Our live streams are just a vehicle for the gospel. And so let's remember, we can do a lot of great things. Let's do it all for God's glory. We'll see you in the next one.